Axenic technology is really the cornerstone of what we do. It's the process used in every stick we make, from the 6.0 all the way down to the entry-level price point at the A1.0. And basically what it is you know, when one-piece sticks first came about, it was just a shaft and a blade that was bonded together with a structural adhesive. Gives you better feel than a hot melt glue.
Right.
Because it was bonded together with a structural adhesive, it couldn't be removed, so they painted over it and called it a one-piece stick. Now, most companies are making what we call a true one-piece stick, which is where the shaft actually goes down into the heel of the blade, and everything's molded in one piece. Other companies are using that type of procedure as well, but we're the only ones using a compression molding process in the shaft, with the shaft going all the way down in the heel of the blade.
Right.
So the difference between compression molding and what other companies do, which was referred to as bladder molding, is we're using a much higher pressure process. We're basically building the shaft from the inside out. So we use an internal mandrel. We wrap all the material around the mandrel. We pressurize it at a very high pressure, over 200 psi. There's no external mold. The material is consolidated onto the mandrel. There's no resin loss during cure, nothing like that.
Okay.
What you put into the shaft is what you get out. So the void content is very low. We're not trying to move material like you do when you bladder mold. The challenges with bladder molding is you have an external mold. You're trying to push material into the corners of the mold, which is very difficult. You have 25 layers of out of material in a high-end shaft. So think of wrapping a string around your fingers 25 times and trying to loosen it up. It's going to be very difficult. That's the same issue you face with bladder molding. Bladder molding, because you have a two-piece mold, you also get some resin loss that bleeds out during cure. And you're using a much lower pressure, typically between 100 and 150 psi.
Okay.
If you've ever broken a bladder molded shaft, you might notice a very thin plastic bag inside of a bladder molded shaft. It's very difficult to get them out. Sometimes they come all the way out, sometimes they don't.
I've tried to pull them out. It is difficult.
Well, typically what happens is when they mold the shaft, they will remove the bladder from this end of the shaft and it'll break somewhere in here. So if you break a shaft very low, you'll see that bag still inside. You'll notice it's very thin if you've ever seen one.
Oh yeah.
So a very common issue as well is during cure that bag will develop a leak. And you might go from 130 psi down to 70 or 80, which is not what your engineers intended. But when your operators open the mold, it still looks like a good shaft. So what do? They ship it. They use it. So it's a much more consistent process. We have a patent on the technology. We've had that patent for about 10 years now. We've got another 10 years on it, and we're always looking for the next new technology. But that's the focus of all our one-piece sticks. And like I said, every single stick we make, because we want consistency in our process, we don't cheapen the process when we make a cheaper stick. We use the same process for every stick.